Hello snowboarders of the internet, I'm your host Avran LeFeber, and in this video we're going to be reviewing the Capita Navigator, which got a new core, some new additives, and a new camber profile for 2024. This board features Capita's Resort V2 directional camber profile, so you get a little bit more reverse camber in the nose, aka rocker, cambered midsection, and then a tinier reverse camber or rocker section in the tail. So what this is going to do is give you that load, pop, snap, and drive of traditional camber underfoot. Then you got that rocker in the nose, which is going to help for more optimal powder float as well as ease of entry into a turn. And then in the tail with that reverse camber, it's going to help sink it a little bit easier and allow you to flex on it. This board's available in 147, 151, 155, 158, 161, 164, 167. I rode this board at Copper Mountain on a day that was a mix of blue skies with some clouds, cooler temps, a couple inches had fallen on top of the previous day's snow totals, chop chunder underneath, a little dust on crust and spots, perfect corduroy where I could find it, and I rode it with my Rome Black Label bindings and my K2 Thraxis boots. This board has that overall predictable middle-of-the-road freeride flex, with the center section being the stiffest, right where that camber is. Now the nose is a hair stiffer than the tail, and you'll notice this when you're pushing into chop and chunder, it just sort of gets up on top of it. That tail, you can actually flex it outside the camber zone, right where it meets that reverse, and it will sink a little bit easier. It's just like this key flex point for that. The torsional flex, highly abundant but reactive, it will snap back. Now, when it comes to chatter, you do have these cork inlaid dampeners as well as flax in there. So what that's doing is it's dissipating any kinetic energy when you're getting up to speed from the flap in the nose of this board. So it's gone underneath the front foot. You're not gonna actually feel it. In more rutted out terrain, you just wanna keep your knees bent because this board does get knocked around a little bit, but it tends to stay on top of stuff. Now, when you're planing in deeper snow and you got your weight on that back seat, the center of the board will take a little bit of a hammering, and you're gonna kind of feel that under the back foot. That chatter will resonate up, so be aware of that. You're just gonna feel it kind of at the end of the day. So with this having camber through the middle of it, and then you've got that micro rocker in the tail, or reverse as they call it, when you load it up and you push back on it, you get this tiny little bit of spring, and that's gonna help you porpoise through fresh snow. This isn't the snappiest board, and if anything, I feel like the snap is slightly diminished on this year's version compared to last year's. You just sort of lose it because you get this flex point that you can kind of over accentuate and really push into, which really does kind of affect things. So like I said, not the snappiest. Are you gonna be able to pillow pop with it? Sure. You're gonna be able to send a side hit? Yeah. But you know, if a family of fat skiers falls on a run while you're trying to get around the resort to get to some POW, you're gonna be able to clear them all? Probably not. So, you know, turn sideways, decapitate them, and then keep going on your way. It's just less people in the lift line. So you do have that longer rocker section in the nose, but there's a little bit more fight up there compared to last year's version. So when you pop into it and you press, you're gonna notice that it wants to rebound and snap you back out. Just be aware that you're gonna have to manhandle it a little bit more. Pop that 180, really press into it, sit with your weight outside the binding, flex it hard, snap out of it, pop the 180 back around and keep going. With the tail, it flexes so much easier. You can really get up on it. High speed POW wheelies, high speed groomer wheelies. You wanna go sideways and sit on it? Go right ahead. This board has a smooth entry from outside the front foot into a carve. You're gonna notice that it swoops in, but all the power is pretty much derived from inside the front insert pack back through the camber. You're gonna feel that. That's where you're gonna get all your power and drive. Now, when you get rear foot heavy, which will happen with this board, you can overpower a carve. You're gonna notice that flex point in the tail right where that reverse meets the camber can kick out if you're being too aggressive. You gotta kind of tone it down a lot. Now, medium mellow carves where you're swooping from one side of the resort to the other looking for powder pockets, that's where this board truthfully shines. You're not aggressively carving, you're just sort of swooping in, cutting into some trees, maybe a POW field, swooping back out. That's truthfully where it excels. It doesn't have the power or the grip that the last year's version had, but it's easier to drive it in POW. That's what I noticed. It's a lot more slashy for this year's model. Who's this board for? The Resort Powder Rider. So while the shape stays the same on this board, what you're gonna notice is the flex is a little bit different in that camber profile. it's easier to sink the tail than it was last year, so you're going to be able to get the nose up and plane across pout easier. But at the same time, you're going to lose some of the carving ability when you get on a groomer, which is fine. That's not what this board's for, so that's okay to sacrifice this, because I think it's actually easier to get on the back foot and float this in steeper terrain than it was last year. You have a little bit less fight, you lose a little bit of snap, which kind of sucks, but you get less leg fatigue with it now. And that's always good. I think getting less leg fatigue makes more sense. Overall, still a great powder board, just a different ride than the previous year. Comparable boards, the Endeavor Archetype, the Karua Pencil, the Nidecker Beta. Binding recommendations, the Union Strata, the K2 Edition, the Battalion Astro ASIM. This has been my review of the Capita Navigator. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you own one? Are you going to buy one? Leave me a comment down below. Let's have a conversation about this snowboard. If you're new here, remember to subscribe, click the bell, get those notifications. That way you're not missing any of the videos we got coming out for all you snowboarders of the internet. And if you really like what we're doing over here and you want to support us further, swing on over to Angry Snowboarder VIP and become a member. Sure, I could tell you more here, but I got a video over there that explains it so much better. As always, I've been your host, Avran LeFeber, and I'll see you in another video.